Welcome to this explainer. Let's dive right into the exact moment and place the modern myth of Bigfoot was officially born. Legends of giant hairy creatures exist in folklore all over the globe, but the specific pop culture icon we all know today, that has a very distinct starting point. We can trace its literal birth right back to 1958, deep in the wild forests of Humboldt County, California.
To really wrap our heads around how this legend blew up, we gotta start with the number 16. We're talking massive, 16-inch, human-like footprints sunk deep into the thick California mud. Imagine you're out there, miles from civilization, carving a logging road through the absolute middle of nowhere, and you stumble across a track that big. No wonder the crew was captivated, and honestly pretty spooked.
So, picture this. It's the morning of August 27, 1958. Bulldozer operator Jerry Crew had just gotten back to his remote logging site in Bluff Creek, a super rugged spot in Northern California after a weekend at home. When he gets to his tractor, he finds these giant prints literally circling his machine. They were pressed deep into the freshly moved dirt, showing a bare, five-toed foot way larger than any human foot has a right to be. Crew was so blown away he actually made a plaster cast, just to prove he wasn't spinning a tall tale.
Naturally, the media got wind of this. The story of these giant tracks found its way to a local journalist, Andrew Genzoli, at the Humboldt Times. On September 21st, Genzoli ran a column featuring a letter about the discovery, and he playfully wrote, "Maybe we have a relative of the abominable snowman of the Himalayas." Now, Genzoli later admitted he just thought it was a quirky little Sunday morning filler story. He had absolutely no idea he was about to spark a global frenzy.
Thanks to that initial column and the follow-up reporting, the story spread like wildfire. See, the loggers out at Bluff Creek had already been casually calling the mystery trackmaker Bigfoot. Once the Humboldt Times printed that nickname, man, it stuck for good. Just like that, in the fall of '58, a uniquely American pop culture icon took its very first breath. Get this, the paper ran 18 different stories on the creature in October alone. August 1958, the footprints are found. October 1958, the Bigfoot name hits the press. October 1967 brings us the Patterson-Gimlin film, and finally, 2002 brings a massive revelation. It's wild to see how a single morning at a logging site built enough momentum to fuel a decades-long phenomenon.
Part 1. The Monster versus the Prankster.
Okay, so before we talk about that famous '67 film footage, we absolutely have to talk about the prankster hiding behind those original footprints. The terrifying myth in 1958 was that some 450-pound wild man was roaming the California woods, tossing heavy oil drums around, and stalking bulldozers in the dead of night. But the reality? The whole thing was an elaborate joke pulled by Jerry Crew's own boss, a construction owner named Ray Wallace. Wallace had gotten his hands on a pair of carved wooden feet and literally just stomped around in the mud on his own job site. At first, it was just a sneaky tactic to scare off equipment thieves. And he kept the secret for decades. It wasn't until Wallace passed away in 2002 that his family finally spilled the beans to the public. They revealed the actual carved wooden feet, which had just been sitting right there in his basement the whole time. Now, Wallace didn't invent this trick out of thin air. He was actually inspired by an older hoaxer, a guy named Rand Mullins, who carved giant wooden feet to scare huckleberry pickers way back in the 1930s. Wallace teamed up with Mullins to get his own set of feet, pulling off a local gag that completely accidentally snowballed into a worldwide sensation. Part 2. Cementing the legend. The 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film.
Even though we now know those original footprints were 100% faked, the legend had already grown way out of Wallace's control. Which brings us to October 20, 1967. Two hardcore Bigfoot enthusiasts, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin, went out to that exact same Bluff Creek area, hoping to track down the monster. What they walked away with was about 3 minutes of video, but it contained a crucial 59-second stretch of footage that completely altered the course of cryptozoology history.
You've definitely seen this iconic image, known as Frame 352. It shows a hairy, bipedal creature striding right across a dry creek bed in the harsh sunlight. Patterson and Gimlin nicknamed this female creature Patty. Now, whether you think this film is the real deal or just another elaborate hoax cooked up for cash, you can't deny that this single frame permanently burned the visual of Bigfoot into the public's brain. I mean, it is the exact silhouette you see slapped on every bumper sticker, t-shirt, and beef jerky commercial today.
So that raises a seriously fascinating question, right? If the absolute genesis of the modern Bigfoot craze was literally just a boss pranking his logging crew in '58, why do thousands of people still claim to see this creature out in the wild today? Like, what are all these eyewitnesses actually looking at when they're deep in the woods?
Well, nature has a funny way of playing tricks on us. Take the American black bear, for example. When it walks on its hind legs, it can stand up to 7 feet tall. If you catch that silhouette from far away, or maybe in the dim, shadowy light of a dense forest, honestly, it is incredibly easy to mistake a standing bear for a bipedal ape man. Out in the wild, the physical resemblance is genuinely striking.
But there's another layer here, and it's happening right inside our own heads. A 2011 Washington newspaper article hit the nail on the head, pointing out that misidentification happens constantly, especially when Bigfoot believers or those seeking attention want and hope to see the real thing. Human psychology is a huge factor. When you desperately want to experience a myth, or you're already primed to look for a monster behind every tree, your brain will absolutely jump at the chance to turn a standing bear or even just a weird shadow into a full-blown Sasquatch.
The biggest takeaway for us is just the sheer power of modern folklore. Yes, the modern Bigfoot was undeniably born from a guy stomping around with carved wooden feet in 1958, but the creature has totally transcended those fake origins. These days, towns like Willow Creek throw annual Bigfoot Days festivals. The creature has evolved into this enduring, beloved mascot for the untamed American wilderness. The legend just completely took on a life of its own.
I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder. We live in an age where we can scientifically debunk almost anything. We literally have the carved wooden feet from 1958 sitting in a basement. So why does the legend of Bigfoot continue to capture our imaginations more strongly than ever? Maybe we just really want to believe there's still some mystery left out there in the woods. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and always keep questioning what you see.